Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents the Dave Holly Hour. Brought to you by the Sky Lounge and Tea, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, and Books and Brews Pizzeria. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations and has been recognized by the Sioux Falls Stage Awards with a special distinction for promoting the arts. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Welcome, everybody. So great to have you along on the bingo episode of the Dave Holly Hour. Yes, it's episode 069. Yes, so here we go. And what do the episodes of the Dave Holly Hour entail? You're asking, if maybe you're a first-time listener. Well, it's all about Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. If you're not from the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area, you might not know what we mean by Sioux Empire, but basically it's the greater metro area of Sioux Falls, here in the middle of the heartland, in the middle of America, where we have not middle-of-the-road talent, but incredible talent. A couple of great interviews for you today. Conversations coming up with a young poet that started off in a metal rock band and then branched out to write more poetry. His name is Zach Mitchell. He'll be along later in the show. And then coming up in a few minutes, the man that is doing quite well over the past few years with his own warehouse recording studio and his association with Crazy Poet Records, who you've heard be mentioned on this program many times because of so many local artists using said recording studio and getting signed with said label. So we'll talk to Mark Dahm all about that.
Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day in your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party.
All right, so many of you know that I record quite a few of the conversations in the lobby down between Wood Grain, and it's in front of Frontier Bank and next to Agua Fresh. And normally I do so in the afternoon, but this past week I had one of the conversations take place at 10 o'clock in the morning. So instead of seeing Hammer from Agua Fresh, I got to finally meet the owners, Sinan and his wife Burju. I hope I got it right this time. Wonderful people. And for those of you that do know me, you know that when I get good customer service, I tip well. They got tipped well. Nice people. Wish them well down there. They've been there for a couple of years now, so it's great to see how they're doing. And so since I was down there for the morning for once, I got to try the coffee. Very good. Good old, wake your ass up type coffee. Yeah, that's what I like to call it. And as always, no matter what time I'm there, I have to have one of their muffins. Those are absolutely just outstanding. So our toast this week going out to Sinan and Burju, as well as Hammer from Agua Fresh, for providing great service and great products as well. Oh, and let's see. So if you're toasting along with this, it's probably going to depend on the time of day that you're actually having a beverage as to what that beverage might be. Like 10 o'clock the other morning, it was coffee. But right now, as I put this program together for your benefit and enjoyment, it's the usual Jack Daniels Diet Coke with a lime, better known as Jasper Newton. And now we have something better known as Honorable Mention. Oh, we like to give out a shout-out each week. Sometimes it's tough to make the decision who actually is going to get it. We have a tie. It's the first time in the Honorable Mention, the coveted Honorable Mention Awards, that we have a tie. Kind of a good reason for it, though. because here's what took place. So, Saturday, I got off work for my regular job early. Miss Carey's had been working that day. You know, it's not one of her regular days to work, but she decided to go in and take care of a few things. And then when she got home, we're sitting there looking at the TV like, oh, what do we want to watch? Do we want to pick up something that we have not, addressed yet? That's, has a couple episodes or something? And then we said, or we could go to the Alpine. A long-standing Sioux Falls establishment, the Alpine, over on the east side of town. We've karaoke'd there before many times and had supper there a few times, but went over there and decided to have just a good time and picked up our friend Miss Melissa's on the way. And then the fashionista, Elijah, he decided to join us. And we got involved in playing this game, well, before this part, okay? So I'm sitting there looking over at this guy, and I can tell he's probably my age, maybe a little bit older, okay? I have to admit that. And I'm one of those that, if I always hate to think, what if I forgot to ask and I was right? So I'm just thinking I know this guy, or he certainly looks like somebody I know, but in the meantime, I'm looking at him thinking, for a guy of this age or maybe a little bit older, he sure got some great hair. And, of course, I don't have any. So I tell my wife that. I said, he's got great hair for this age. And finally, I break down, and I had to get up anyway. And so I walk over, maybe about 10, 15 feet away, and I asked him what his name was. I said, because you look like either somebody I know or I know you. And then he tells me his name is Gary Bills, and it's like, no, that wasn't it. I said, but I have to tell you, dude, I don't know what age you are, but if I had hair, I would want it to look like yours. Oh, man, good-looking dude, So he starts to giggle, and he says, you just made my day. All right, so there's one of the two winners this week. So then our group of four, me, Miss Carey's, Miss Melissa's, and the fashionista, decide to play Truth or Dare in a bar. Yeah, what else to do on a Saturday afternoon, huh? And so we're using a cell phone to play Spin the Bottle to do the Truth or Dare thing. And it came around to everybody, and we had this rule, you couldn't do it 2 times in a row. Well, I was the only one that ever took a dare. And I got to lead the bar in sing-alongs several times because of that, and go over and meet somebody new, have them come over and meet us, and things like that. And the people that chose the truth, we pushed the envelope a couple of times. Yeah, we had some fun. It was great humor. Well, anyway, we've got this waitress that is just really nice, and her name is Quincy. And even Quincy decides to play Truth or Dare a couple of times with us. She, too, went with the truth, but some very good answers on Quincy's part. Anywho, Quincy, the waitress at the Alpine, is the other winner of our wonderful honorable mention this week, because she came back past us one time and said, you guys have made the entire bar smile today. Didn't want to be, patting ourselves on the back that we did it. No, we're giving the honorable mention to Mr. Gary Bills and to Quincy because they enjoyed us having a good time this past Saturday. Well, if you love arts and entertainment, you're going to have a good time this hour plus. Yeah, you're getting your money's worth today on the Dave Holly Hour, because it is not just an hour. We're probably going an hour 15, maybe even closer to an hour 30. We'll find out. Anywho, here's what's lined up for us later on in the show. Poet Zach Mitchell. But up next, from Warehouse Recording Studio, Mark Dahm on the Dave Holly Hour. Sure, they have darts, and you've heard me talk about how ruggedly handsome the trivia host is, but all caps fun never stops at the Sky Lounge and Tea. And fun is best had with your friends enjoying live entertainment, as in live and local. Yeah, the Sky Lounge believes in giving you the best bands, solo artists, and comedians from the area. The Neo Johnsons, Elizabeth Hunstead, Skylar Volks, as well as many others. And a great staff will make sure you enjoy your fun at the Sky Lounge in Tea, South Dakota. Welcome, everybody. It is such a great day because it's Thursday. We love to call it Weekend Eve. Stuff gets cooking in the entertainment and arts industries around here. And I tell you what, this guy has been cooking quite well over the past couple of years with his warehouse recording studio, Mr. Mark Dahm. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure to have you. And thank you as well for the tour recently of Warehouse.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a great time. And just for people, obviously, the majority of people aren't ever going to be in a recording studio. What do you put into a recording studio besides a bunch of equipment?
Oh, boy.
And a lot of time.
A lot of time, yeah. It's, I would say, thinking about, when we talked and we were going to do this interview, I thought about, what are we going to talk about? How, I don't do many interviews. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of the guy behind the scenes. Even when I played in a band, Search for George, I let other guys do all the talking. But it's so many. I realize that there's so many people behind the scenes that help you. Even though it maybe have been my idea to start the studio, you just can't do things alone.
Right.
I mean, it is amazing how many people, when I thought about it, just people that were just instrumental in my life that helped me get there, put their time in. It really is amazing how much more it is just than you. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Now, some people grow up wanting to be a sound engineer and so forth and work in a recording studio. You started the opposite way. You were the musician. Tell us about your early starts in the music world and then Search for George. And that's all going to lead us into a couple other things, too.
Yeah, matter of fact, I had no interest in the recording to start out with at all. None at all. I started when I was 15. Started in North Dakota. It just hit that pivotal time in your life. Like, what am I going to do? What's going on? I was terrible at sports. Had no interest in it. So a couple buddies just thought, man, it would be fun to do this, right? So story is that I decided to play drums and fooled I'm the youngest of 8 kids. So there's lots of people in my family. And I was the youngest by quite a bit. So I was kind of an only
similar
child.
To an only child.
Yeah, similar to an only child. So most of the time when I'd come home and say, hey, I want to do this, both my parents were like, no, Bob wanted to do that, and that didn't last very long. Or your sister Mary wanted to do that, and she gave up in 2 days, and I was like, that's pretty close to my mom. And I said, I just thought in the back of my head, if I can show my mom that I really do this, she's that kind of lady that, the mom that she's going to back me on this. So decided I was going to play drums, found a drum set, told my mom it was $400, told the guy that I was buying it from, which was $800, that I'd pay him the other $400 in 6 months.
If he kept quiet.
Yes. And so she agreed on the $400 drum set, and I brought it home. She let me set it up in their bedroom. We lived in a double-wide trailer. We weren't a rich family at all. And I played that thing. I caught the bug. I mean, I really caught it. Like, that's all I did after school. That was all I thought about. Funny thing is, we're talking about important people in my life. My cousin, Steve Lupke, he lived next to us, and he is an incredible musician. I've always looked up to him. He's been playing for years and years. His daughter actually is Natty Jean, the recording artist that we have at the record label.
Okay.
And he's played on, I just think the world of him. Well, probably a couple weeks, 3 weeks into playing, my mom asks him to come over and listen while I'm playing, right?
Just to see if what she's hearing is on the level as well?
So the fun part about that story is I didn't hear about it until years and years later, but I guess he came in and listened, and he looked at my mom and he said, I don't think he's got it. So I didn't know he said that, and thank God I didn't know it, right? Yeah. But I stuck with it, and it really got the bug, and I kept playing. I was in a band probably within 7-8 months, and I had to come up to my mom and tell her, hey,
we still owe $400.
I still need $400. And she did exactly, again, not the right thing that I should have done, but she did. She wrote that check out, and I love her for it. The next year, she bought me a guitar for my birthday, which was great. But yeah, so I played in a band in Sioux Falls, in Wahpeton, North Dakota, and I did that all through high school, just cover bands, rock bands, everything else. In 1990, I moved here. Things had kind of worn out for me in Fargo. My sister Mary came down and said, hey, you should come up, check it out. Came up on, I think it was a couple days before New Year's, on 1989. Got a job at Star Mark, decided to move here. I moved here New Year's Eve 1990 or 1989, going to be 1990. And it's been great. It was the best move I ever made. Had my first job, which an
actual paying one instead of gig by gig.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I fought that for a long time. I thought, I'm a musician. I can't work. I have to give it to the art, right? The best thing that ever happened in my life was I got a full-time job. I could buy sticks. I could buy heads for my drums. I had a vehicle that actually could haul my drums. It was amazing. So when I hear the younger, people come into the studio, they're like, yeah, I can't work. I got to give it all to the arts. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I believe that, but it takes a while, right? You kind of grow up. But yeah, got in here and met another gentleman that's very influential in my life. His name's Dave Butler. I played in a band called Naked Ted. It used to be called Mickey Finn when I started in it. He was a guy, I was drumming in that band, and he was someone that is a really good writer and allowed me to be a part of that, allowed me into that world of writing. So Naked Ted was more of an original band. We wrote all our own material. And that was a big thing. It got me kind of in the mode of, wow, that's how it's done, right? Like, I didn't really know as a drummer how it was done before, and I didn't really care, to be honest with you. But he let me into that little doorway of, well, this is a chorus. This is how we write this. This is our transitions here. And this is so. On the album that came out, he was nice enough to let me kind of write with him. So I got kind of minor writing credits or whatever. But I really thought, okay, I like this, right? I'd then been playing guitar a little bit more. So I decided Naked Ted kind of had a little bit of a falling out. Kind of things had changed. Members had left. It was frustrating. Kind of anytime you're in a kind of a original band, it's tough. It's tough to keep people in the band. It's tough to keep it going.
Tough to keep an audience.
Yeah. They want covers and all that. So we broke up. I decided, because I'm not very smart, to start a cover band. And I was going to play guitar and sing, because I'd never done that before. And I got a few buddies I worked at Gateway at the time, and I met a few gentlemen named Dion Raymond, Scott Rasmussen. He was a gentleman that actually played in rival bands or bands with me in North Dakota, so I knew him. We decided we were going to start this cover band. And the best part about it is none of us were very good, because I hadn't really done it before. Dion, the drummer, hadn't played drums for 4 or 5 years. He was a drummer, of course, but hadn't gotten away from it. Scott, of course, hadn't played for a couple, 3 years. And so it was great. It was like 2 times a week at my house, get a case of beer, and just play. I think it took us, we had learned 7 songs in 1 year. Like, we were not on a fast pace for anything.
So how long before a gig then?
Well, that's what's crazy. So it happened quite quickly. It was a deal where we went and opened up for Janitor Bob.
Oh, wow.
And we could do an opening gig because at that time we knew 10 songs. Right?
Okay.
We thought, this will be great. We'll go in, Pomp Room. We did it at the Pomp Room. And it went really good. And Ward, or I can't remember which of
the Ertz.
Came up to me. I think it was the other one. And and said, "We love you. I mean, can you go do a weekend?" And we're like, "Oh my gosh." We didn't tell him. Yeah, we didn't tell him this. And thought, man, we know 10 songs, right? So we said, oh yeah, we can do that. So we got my sister, who is very talented. Her name is Mary Timmer, and she came in and kind of saved us. She's a great singer, so we were able to kind of open up doing female songs and all that. So we did that, and we were actually a pretty successful cover band for about, I would say, 2 or 3 years. We'd play a lot around town, a lot at the
Pomp Room.
The Pomp Room. We would play D-Days almost every year. So we were doing really well. I met another gentleman who was, again, when we were talking about just influential, his name was Kurt Brost. And he was a guy that just worked at Gateway, was friends with us. And we'd be down in the basement just goofing around. I started getting into writing a little bit, but I wasn't, nothing kind of came to fruition. I was just, we had little riffs and stuff like that. Come to find out, this guy is a genius at writing lyrics. So I'm like, we wrote a song called Nancy's Couch. He helped me out, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. I could just come up with the melody lines and kind of a few words, and he was able to just throw in words and go, oh, we can do that. And he'd just be over there writing around, and then we would work these things out. So we decided to go in and record a song. And the next guy that was pretty huge in my life is Mike Vermillion. We went to his house to record our first song. That was another thing where we went in, did the song. He was like, man, that's awesome. How many more songs you got? We were like, a lot.
Yeah.
Lying again. So we went back and worked on these songs and became more of an original band. We started writing. We did our first album with Mike, and that was a blast. Then because I was the only guitar player at the time, Mike was doing a lot of the guitar work, leads. I wasn't a very good guitar player, so he helped us out with that. So by the time we got done with our first album, we almost needed him in the band because he had worked on it so much that we almost couldn't play it without him. So he ended up joining the band. We met the next guy, Dave Pendry, who is, you know of as for the Crazy Poet record company. He ends up being in Search for George, but in a weird way. We met him through a deal where he was having a college party and wanted us to come up and do this college frat party. Met us at a bar. We went up there. It was kind of a flop. Didn't go very well. I think it rained. I can't remember. But we just had a great time. And he was a younger, I think he was maybe 17 or 18. He's a smart guy. So he was in college early, kind of doing that. And he just would show up all the time. Every place we'd play, and he would haul in equipment.
You had a groupie.
Yeah. And he was awesome. We were really, got to be really close. And we were doing our second album, and we were in the album and doing the album. And I said, man, I would love piano. So, and we had known him now for probably 6 months to maybe a year. And I said, man, we need to find a keyboard player. And he goes, well, I play keyboards. I was like, well, why didn't you say that before? And he's like, I don't know. I guess
Nobody asked.
Yeah, nobody asked me. So he ends up playing on the second album. And then he ends up really being a huge part of Search for George. He was the longest member with me that stayed through it. So, yeah, then we brought him into the band. Did our third album up in Mankato at Two Fish Studios. That was funny because that's when Steve Lipke, I was talking about earlier, my cousin, we ended up having him come in and playing leads on that. And it was the first time I heard the story about how back in the day, he had told my mom he didn't think I had it, right? Well, I gave him a little hard time. I was like, it's pretty funny that I'm the guy that didn't have it.
And I hired you.
And I hired you to come to this. So that was a big rub between us, which is kind of fun. But he was brilliant. Again, did such a fantastic job. How can we go out without him, right? So now he was in the band. So that album did pretty well. It was called 3 Minute Pop Song. It charted in the top 20 of the CMJs. We got a bus. We toured for probably 3 or 4 years around the United States, playing all over. It was really fun, had a good time. Things started to wear down. We got married. People were getting married. I was married by then. My wife, Pam, has been unbelievable with all my stuff that I've done. We were starting to have kids, all of that. So the band had kind of went down to where we were just playing regional again. And then we were playing up in Fargo and stuff. And we were working on our 4th album and decided that it just wasn't really going to happen anymore. So I ended up coming back home and not playing for a couple years. Just kind of thought, I'm just done with it for a while. I was miserable. My wife even said, you're miserable. Do something. Decided to put a small studio in my basement and just write.
So you were thinking more selfishly than
more than anything.
Commerce or anything?
Yeah, just kind of trying to do something with music again, right? Had no big dreams, no big things trying to go out and play, no big record things. Just I wanted to get back into music. Dave, again, has always been my brother in this. He's always been around, always been with me. So he kind of was excited to get back into it. So he and I thought, well, we should kind of come. He was living, I think, in Denver at the time. He decided to move back to Minneapolis to be closer. He built a studio. We built a studio together at his house, and I would go up on the weekends, and it was a nicer studio than my little basement thing, and we would work on it. We did pretty well. It was just, and he did great. He's super good at that too. It was just so frustrating for me because I was going up and I'd have to be on, and I'd get 2 or 3 days every month and a half to work on these songs, right? And it was just wearing on me because I didn't like them when I got back because I was wasn't anything he did. It was just rushed, So I thought, man.
While maintaining a full-time job, having a family.
Yep. And him having a family. And so I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look for a spot. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And I originally built, the warehouse for the band Search for George. I wasn't in any way looking to make it commercial at all. So I find this place over on North Cliff and got it. And I think it was in November, and by January, we were recording. And again, Mike Vermillion, huge help, came in. A lot of the equipment that I recorded back in my first album showed back up at the studio, until I could get something better, until we could, and he's still a part of it. He's more of he doesn't come down very much, but he's still a big part of the studio. If I need something or if something breaks, he's a really, really super smart guy. So he helps me out that way. But yeah, just did that. And then we did the Search for George thing for a year. We put out 7 singles. And then I don't know what happened. I just decided, I really, really, really started to love recording. And the art of recording, not just pressing the play button, but the microphones and where you placed them. And you were at the studio. It's a cool place, right?
It's a great place.
So there's all these garages you can go to and hallways. And I just really kind of fell in love with it more than playing. Like I decided, man, I don't really even want to play anymore. I just want to record. And so I started opening it up to certain people. And the nice part is that have you had Chris Sandvig on your show at all?
No, but okay. I know Chris fairly well.
Yes.
And I see that he's going to be playing again soon. And so I'm hoping to get him on the show.
He's, again, a super guy. He was kind of
incredible guitarist. Yes,
yeah. He was my first guy that really, I would say I got into producing with, other than myself, right? Where he came in, had heard some of my stuff that I'd done, and said, hey, I want to record here. I like the stuff you did. I want my stuff to be in that vein or whatever. And it was awesome. I got to play guitar on his stuff. I played bass on his. And then I realized, wow, I can do both, right? I can have the playing, but yet I can still stay recording. And now I find myself not even caring if I ever play live again. I have so much fun in the studio that it takes all of that away, right?
So studio musician / sound engineer.
Somewhat, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I try to do what I can for the client, and I know my limits. So if I can't do it, I don't overstep my bounds. I find some people that can do it. There's so many great musicians in town.
Oh, that is what's amazing about this place. And that's something that it keeps coming back every episode of this show, about the collaboration, about the amount of talent that we have. And it's just so fun to see it explode and in so many great different ways. And we're going to be talking about the Poet Records, Crazy Poet Records here in just a moment and so forth. But the other thing I have to compliment you on in your studio is it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You know, but that goes back to one of your trades that you have.
I did. I built houses back in the day. So, yeah, it kind of comes from that. I've always been kind of a handy guy. But, yeah, for, I would say, 4 years, I built probably 11 houses over on the west side. It was a lot of fun, very stressful when you're competing back then against the Ronings and I can't even think of all the
some big
guys.
hitters in town,
the big
that's
hitters
for sure.
when you're the little guy. But I got that from my dad. My dad was a very handy. He was a plumber and kind of that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was good. It's helpful, right? Like makes it a lot cheaper to be able to do the things you want to do. But I think a lot of that is just, again, surrounding yourself with good people, and the fact that, Mike Vermillion is a very handy person. Dave, when we worked on Dave's stuff, he's really handy. So it wasn't like we were going in there and kind of not knowing how to build stuff. But yeah, it turned out awesome. We're knocking around at sometimes, or I kind of get this feeling like, well, I'm going to build a house so my studio can be closer to me. Talked to my wife about this last weekend. I was like, can I get the studio that I have? It's so unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of this aura around it, and kind of this, you pull up and you don't know if you really want to get out of your car or not, honestly.
Make sure you have locks.
Right. You're like, you walk in, you're like, there is no way there's a recording studio in here. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, and it's got a great live room. The drums in the live room are just fantastic. I think it's a great place. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I think if I can work out a deal with the owner of the building to stay there for a long time, maybe I'll just stay there and decide. You know what I mean?
But in the meantime, you have a lot in there.
I do.
How many guitars? Do you actually have it all inventoried?
I do for insurance,
okay.
But I wonder if my wife will listen to this. I have a lot. Yes. Some of the guitars that you saw, of course, are not mine.
Right.
Like, Dave Butler, again, the guy that I talked about earlier, he's back in town. He's a lefty, so his lefties are there. Mike Vermillion's got guitars there. But yes, there's probably about 30 guitars in there. Lots of equipment, yes.
Yeah. Well, including the recording equipment, too. And the interesting thing was, because I sat down and I looked around, and you could basically read my mind, and you said, yeah, everything comes in analog before I send it to the computer. I was shocked by that because, right now we're in such this craze that, anybody can start a podcast. Anybody can start their own little quote-unquote recording studio in a closet or whatever.
Yeah.
And get something out in digital media, social media. So I was very surprised that's where you were. And I'm not going to use the word yet because that was your choice.
Yes, it was. If when I did this, I had decided I was the guy down in my basement with very little material, going into the computer, fixing it. I do not knock that at all. I think that's brilliant. I'm glad that we have that option now. There's a lot of people that can make great music out of their basement or in their bedroom, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's good. It's not the way I grew up. I'm 52. I grew up going into a studio that actually was a studio, right? That's all it did, and it had lots of things and lots of buttons to push, and I wanted it for more of the experience. I felt like, again, I fell in love with the actual recording of it. It's not, to me, it's about getting it. My goal with the studio, I tell everybody this, is that I want to get the studio to where when I record drums or any band, and we record Saturday, we do the drums, bass, and guitar. At the end of the day, I just want to push the faders up on my board, and I want it to sound good. I don't want it to rely on going, well, once I get it in the computer, I will do this and this and this and this and this, and then it will actually sound good, right? My thing is I have all the outboard analog gear to be able to do that going into the computer. Now, that's good and bad because I can actually screw up a lot. I can screw up a lot of things too. And I have done that before where I've overcompressed or over EQ'd or whatever and went, oh man, I can't get that back, right? That's to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's what recording was about, and that's the fun of it, right? I don't do it for full time for that reason. I don't want to be able to go and say, listen, let's go. You got an hour, let's do it.
Right.
You know, you're done, load up, go, I got another session. I literally have a full-time job because when I go to the studio, I want it to be fun for the client and for me.
Right.
I want them to walk in, feel no pressure, feel like, hey, you think you can do it better? Let's do it again. Or I might say, and I've done it before, I'm going to set up all new microphones. It's going to take an hour, but I don't like the microphone sounds that I'm getting. They're just like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, yeah, but you'll
appreciate it afterwards.
we're getting it because we're just not getting the sound that I want right now or the sound you want. So I'm always hoping to keep it like that, right? Like keep it. So yeah, I do have a lot of outboard equipment. I do believe that I'm a stout believer in that good equipment is good equipment, right? I think if you have a $50 mic and you have a $500 mic, there is a difference.
True.
There really is a difference between it. So I buy good equipment or I trade for good equipment or however I do, I always get good equipment because that takes 50% of the pressure off of me already. I can plug that microphone in, run it through my nice board, and automatically I'm a genius, right? I didn't even do anything but plug it in, but it's because it's good equipment. So that's the way I want to run the studio. I want the client to have an experience. I want them to have good equipment or a good product when they're done, but I actually want them to go, man, that place was super fun. It was super cool. We got to do this. You know, we got to record here. We went out in the hallway towards the bathroom and recorded vocals out there. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now, you said it's not full time, but it's keeping you pretty dang busy these days, hasn't it?
It is.
Especially with your association with Crazy Poet Records. And kind of tell us what the actual association is with that.
Well, I don't know.
Because that's where Dave comes in.
I should probably talk to Dave actually what the actual association. No, just kidding.
Well, I need to talk to him and say, we really should call this the Dave Holly Hour, the preferred podcast of Crazy Poet Records
Yes.
and its stable of artists.
Well, we really appreciate it. We love it. Yes, it came to be where he's got a full-time job, full family, right? Marketing job, brilliant at what he does. So he kind of just stepped away from the music for a little bit. The label was going, or the recording was going so good, and I was dealing with all these really good musicians. Ben Gertner, Natalie, who is my cousin's daughter. Mm-hmm. Just people that I was. Kyle Austin, guitar player from Adrift.
Brady Reed, Matt D.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even met Matt D at the time, right? I hadn't even done that whole deal yet. And I was like, man, I feel bad because I feel like we get these great recordings and then nothing happens, right? Not because it's the musician's fault. It's just that it takes a lot of time and energy and, smarts and, anybody can just put it up on Spotify, but you got to be able to promote it. You got to try to get it out and all of that. So I thought, well, I'm going to talk to Dave. I know my limits. I definitely know my limits. I knew that I wanted to start a record label. I knew for 100% that I wasn't the right guy to run it, right? I knew who needed to run it and be the main guy in it, and that was Dave. How it ended up coming up is it's a funny story. So I thought I want to get a publishing deal for Warehouse. I was just going to go out and find a publishing company because I had all these great artists that weren't published. And I thought, this will be great. I'll talk. I found this place called Killer Sync and contacted them. They listened to the stuff and they were like, holy cow. This was when I had Ben just started and they heard some of Ben's stuff and they're like, wow, we want him. Like on and on, like we'll sign him. And I'm like, well, that was easy, right? So in my dumb way, I just went out and did it. I didn't think anything legal. I'm not that smart. I didn't think legality wise. I just went, well, I think I want a publishing deal. So I just had one. And then the paperwork came and I thought, when I read this paperwork, it doesn't make any sense because Ben is actually the one getting the deal through me. How does that work for, how do I sign this, right? Like I was totally confused. So there's only one person I was going to call to get me out of this mess, and it was Dave Hendry. And Dave, I remember sending it to Dave and explaining it to me. He's like, you are one of the smartest, dumbest people I've ever known in my entire life. You're an idiot. And I'm like, so I can't sign it? And he's like, absolutely not. What are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm thinking. What do we do? And he's like, well, do we really want to do this? And I was like, I think we really want to do it. I think publishing is really what the record label's about. Mm-hmm. We don't really take even any money from any of the artists. None of their merch, none of their sales of their, albums or digital, nothing. We take no money from them at all. The only time we would take money is if we actually got something published. And then we take just like a normal publisher. But really, that's where I believe the new playing out is, right? Getting it on a commercial. There's so many shows. Like, how many streaming services are there? How many shows are on each streaming service? How many?
About $125 worth in our home. Yeah.
And there's new ones coming up every week, right? So my idea was wow, we should really market this. Our niche will be marketing it to a publishing deal. So Dave, being the smart guy he is, figured out all the paperwork, and we got Ben signed to Killer Sync through Crazy Poet, the correct way, the legal way. And then it just kind of grew from there. It kind of grew in the fact that it was well, I have Natalie. Do we want to do that with Natalie? Yeah, her stuff is great. Let's do that, right? So then, hey, I just met Brady. This guy is really talented, right? So it just kind of came, and I didn't even know what I was in the record company until Dave made the record website and it said I'm the A&R rep. So that's what I am. I have no idea. So I kind of giggled about that. It is what it is. We always have worked between me and him as a handshake. It's like he could sign anything and I would trust him.
Right.
I have no idea, don't really care. I know if money comes in, it'll find my way, find its way to me when I deserve it. If I don't deserve it, he won't pay it. But I've never had a worry. So the label has done well, as in I think the artists that we have on the label are very unique from each other. We don't overlap a lot. A lot of talent for sure. But I think it's hard. He spends a lot of time on it. It's not easy. There's, I don't even know what the statistics are of how many songs on Spotify come out a month or a year or whatever it is, a week. It's a monster amount of music that's coming out. So it's hard.
But in the meantime, it's obviously a lot of work. And what's it take to get an album? What's it take to get an EP? What's it take just to get a single? In terms of, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to record something. And, that's basically all they've talked about is just, I want to record something.
Yeah, that's a question I'm fighting with right now, to be honest with you. There is a lot of people. It's hard to know what the expectations of people are, right? Ben's a unique person because Ben is actually going to be in my family. His son or his brother is going to be marrying my daughter. So my daughter's going to be
not only friend tie, but
yes.
a lot of family ties now too.
So my daughter is going to be a Gertner. So very happy. I mean, Ben is I love that dude. He is
great,
just super, super talented. I'm for sure his biggest fan. I think he's awesome. But an artist like Ben can do it himself. He's very talented, but on his last EP, he was nice enough to let me play on it, and I got other people to play on it. Rich Dahl, Tyson Kahn played drums. Them two played drums. Played guitar. We had Clinton Kennedy play. So that part of it, it's like, how much do you... Here's a songwriter coming in going, I have this song on acoustic. I want it to be a full song, right? So that's different than someone like a band I'm working with right now, 100 Watt Shine, which they're a 5-piece rock band that just play every instrument. I'm just the guy that records them, right? Then you have Matt, who I'm just the producer and recorder, but we have actual Matt does, he really runs the show. He's the songwriter, the brilliance behind it. He has a drummer that he uses. We brought in this guitar player, Jason Haven, who's just a brilliant guitar player. Scott Walters, the bass player, who's been playing probably on 90% of the bass stuff coming out of the studio. So I don't even know how to answer that question, and because it's such a different, every artist is a different person and what they want from you. So I'm struggling with that when, how much do I want to take on a Ben Gertner? How much do I want to just go to a 100 Watt Shine, where I'm just the recording guy and I don't worry about schedules? Is this guy got his guitar part done? I got to call him to get him in for drums. You know what I mean? I just show up to the recording studio, they come in. It takes a lot. Like, even just being the recording guy, it takes a lot. I think the difference between a single, an EP, an album, there really is no difference, to be honest with you. It's how you want to promote it. As in, I'm a singles guy. I like singles. I think my theory is that because of the new generation of people having a iPad and being able to, you listen to 15 seconds of the song, you can go to the next song, and there's 4 million songs. I'm always about a single, and I'm always about promote that single as long as you can, as much emphasis on that one song as you can, and then when that song runs out, go to the next one and release that as a single. Because I feel like when you record it, or when you do an EP or even an album, it's everybody's got such a short attention span that that you can lose a lot on that album, right? You have 8 or 9 songs to listen to. Matt's got 14 songs coming out. That's a lot of songs, right? They're all brilliant, but I don't know many people, including me, that would take the time really to listen to the 14 songs. I don't think he's wrong. I just think I come from the thing of giving each song as much attention as you possibly can. Now, Dave will argue with me and say, well, I can't get any reviews. I can't get anybody to look at it unless it's an album, right? Okay. So there's that push-pull thing of...
And the publishing aspect versus just the musical.
Yes. So he knows how it works. I just look at it in my little cube that I'm in and go, well, I would just rather put out singles and just promote the living tar out of them until they're burned out and then go to the next one.
Yeah, so, it's always funny to think back when I was buying albums and LPs, on vinyl and so forth, and DJing, was the fact that, things come out as a single to a radio station, and you played a 45. And I was one of the few people in my group of friends that actually purchased 45s. There was something, not quite right about purchasing just a 45, whereas now, basically, that's what you're doing. Every time. You're just downloading one tune that really strikes you.
Yes.
And going for it that way. Or you go to the greatest hits album and say, well, I never really liked that, but Bob Seger, sure, I'm going to get you for this one, this one, this one, this one. Yeah.
So for me, when that question comes up, I don't care, right? In my world, I don't care. I'm recording a set amount of songs. What you do with them, I let someone else take care. I might have my opinion, but I don't steer anybody because I don't know the right answer, how to get it out, or it'd be better if it's a single or an EP or a album. I just know Dave will say, well, I can't get anybody to write anything on it until it's an album, because I think that part of it is, like he says, is it's everybody puts out a single. Why do these,
So you have to have something to distinguish.
Yes, you got to say, all right, I put in enough time to write 8 songs instead of just one in my basement, right? I get it. I totally get it. So I think Matt's doing it a cool way. I think we're doing a third single coming out. We might even be doing a fourth single, and then his album will come out. But again, that would be a Dave Pendry question.
And we will have Dave Pendry on sometime.
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
You're hearing it right now, Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
so
awesome.
be prepared. In the meantime, besides music and besides the Crazy Poet records, what else do you have for clientele and so forth?
Well, I have lots of people that are coming in. I'm trying to slow down a little bit. So I've actually gotten other producer engineers coming in. Carl Koiser, I hope I say his last name right. He's a guy that's doing engineering for me. I shouldn't say for me. He's doing it for himself, but uses the studio. And he's brilliant. He's a really super nice guy. So I've been feeding him. And I would say by feeding, it just comes to the warehouse. So I'm the guy that gets the warehouse emails. So they might not even want me. They're just wanting to record at the warehouse. So I will say, hey, I don't have time, do this. Jim Hughes is another person that does a lot of work with me. I have a new guy, Jordan, that's going to be coming on. So I'm actually trying to get more out of that and just do the Crazy Poet stuff. I feel like that's my niche. Like the artists that are on the label, I'm close with. I'm really
good rapport.
Yeah, Natalie and I wrote her last album together. It's kind of where I'm comfortable and what I like to do. You probably won't believe, but I am kind of a shy guy, and I don't really like new things. So it's very hard for me to take on new clients because I put everything into it. I am that cliche of the fifth Beatle or whatever. I want to be that, I want to be in the band because I care that much. So it's always hard. I don't want to disappoint anybody, and I don't think I'm the best at what I do. I think I'm learning all the time, and I'm getting better. But I sure make mistakes. I mean, I sure screw up, and so you have to, that's a personal thing. That's a very, music to people you can't get much more personal than that. And that's a big connection. So it's a big thing for me to take on a client because it has to be something that I believe in. I'm not one that likes to just be like, all right, record's on, go, And I don't think that's a bad,
right.
It's just not the way it's not why I built it. It's not why I want to do it. I have a full-time job, so when I go there, I actually want to do things that I want to do. So I'm hopefully setting up the studio to be someone there every night. That's my goal, is that studio be full all the time, but not me being in the studio all the time, right? Having my 2 days that I usually go in, or some weekends doing that, and just working on the artists that I want to work on. And I don't want that to sound cocky at all. Like, I just want my
It's
artists.
just a balance of life for
Yeah,
you.
it's just it's just the people that I enjoy, and I love their music, and I get inspired to hear their new music, and I get excited when we record it. And it's not that I've worked with artists that I don't even like their music or don't understand their music, right? It's not even that I don't like it. It's just not my forte or whatever. I will still give it 100%. I'm still there for them. But it's not as fun. It's just not as fun. It's much more fun to be involved in it, I guess. So I think for me it's trying to find that balance, and it was a rough year this last year. People kind of say COVID was like, oh, I didn't go. Nothing stopped for me. I worked full time during COVID, have not worked one day during COVID. And the studio has been, because musicians are stupid, we're all dumb, we don't care, but it has been crazy busy at the studio. So to me, it's been the other way. Everybody's like, man, I'm like, I want to go home. I just want to hang out at my house. I don't want to go out.
So when you do get your time off, what do you do? Do you have any hobbies?
I don't.
I just want to take the time and kick back?
I just, family time. I have 2 daughters, wife. I have a daughter up in Lincoln going to be going to grad school in Rochester. I have a 17-year-old daughter that goes to Lincoln High. I work with my wife at Lifescape, so I get to see her, but it's just hanging out. I mean, I don't, that's a little bit of we've talked about this before. It's a little bit scary that I have absolutely no other interest. Like, I don't bowl, I don't hunt, I don't do anything else. I have no interest in anything else, but I do love my family. I love hanging out with them, and I'm getting, the older I'm getting, I'm enjoying that more. Like, I'm realizing how great that is, where before I loved it, but I was always on the go. I got to be doing this, got to be doing that. Now I'm realizing that stuff is all just stuff, right? I want to be around with my daughter. You know, I can't wait. My daughter's getting married this summer. That's going to be a blast. And I can't believe I'm having a daughter that's getting married. Like, that's crazy. I mean, grandpahood could be coming, you know.
And you will love it.
I cannot
wait. Guarantee you
yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. So, I just, it's more of just settling down. And again, I think because I'm so passionate about it, it's nice just to turn that off a little bit and just kind of relax. So.
All right. Well, Mark, appreciate you spending time with us today to be on the Dave Holly Hour. Continued success for Crazy Poet Records in the Warehouse Recording Studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XL Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or xlchiros.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XL Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
Learn more about the unpaid staff at davehollyhour.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Pleasure to have you along here again on another Weekend Eve. Thursday's come upon us. That means it's time to talk about Sioux Empire, arts and entertainment, have some great conversations. And we have someone that actually has reached out to me and said, hey, Dave, can I be on your show? And I love that. And it came about because of a mutual friend that's been on the show, that being Brady Reed, who you've heard a few times on this show talking about his music. Well, now today we're going to talk a little bit about music, but we're also going to talk about poetry with Zach Mitchell. How are you today, Zach?
I'm great, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Great to have you. And you started off actually playing in a heavy metal band, correct?
That is correct.
And what did you play in that then? What were you a part of?
I was screamer or vocalist. So that was really awesome.
Excellent. What did you learn being in a band like that then?
Hard work.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Writing original songs as a group and with like what you want to portray with lyrics and the sound and just the trying to get the message of our band and get people. It's a lot of marketing and a lot. Just it was amazing, but it was definitely hard work.
Yeah, because you guys over about 4 years' time played 10 shows in the Sioux Falls area. You put out some EPs and so forth. What was that like in terms of, when you grow up, we all have these dreams of different things we want to do. Was that part of it, of, being in a group that you'd be able to actually say, hey, I got a CD?
I have always had a passion for writing and just expressing myself via music, via poetry. I started writing poetry when I was young, and I grew up with the community I had. We all listened to metal, and it was cool because we as a band we agreed I am a Christian, and so I was able to put my faith in it, but without the Christian label to it, and be able to play with friends and bands, and that was just a really cool. I remember growing up going to concerts and seeing like Christian metal bands and say like be able to have fun and also shared the gospel message, and it was just a really cool experience, and I was actually able to do it, and that was a dream come true.
Yeah. And, a lot of us think of, well, first of all, congratulations. That's a real fine line to walk, isn't it? Being a Christian without putting a Christian label on it, so that there's no preconceived idea. So, well done that you were able to do that. But getting to the music, and then we'll lead into the poetry, is the fact that, most of us look at the lyrics of song as being modern day poetry. Would you agree?
Yes, there's so much similarities to like lyrics versus or not even versus poems, but there's a lot of similarities to it, and that definitely me being a poet helped with lyric writing.
Mm-hmm. But what was the process like of doing that and putting it to the music? Which came first, lyrics or the music?
My band, I can't even play a guitar, so I like it's a member of it named Jordan. He writes too, and he was the guitar player and the singer. So that thankfully I didn't have too. They kind of made it work, and so it was definitely a learning experience.
All right. So you said that you've always been intrigued by the written word in poetry. What led you to that? We'll talk about this a little bit later on too. That the poetry doesn't seem to be something out there in people's minds typically. So what got a young person like you writing poetry?
Well, Dave, early in life, I was born with a speech impediment.
Okay.
And it was beginning of my life, it was hard for me to even read and speak, and then just there was like bands like Law Dispute and just like and then like a guy named Levi the Poet, and it was a lot of just inspirations from people in my life that. It's a mixture of like, I guess I just wanted to write like lyrics or poems. I guess I don't know, but with faith, with my faith and the way I had a harder time growing up. I just really had a desire to write, like about some of my hardships. I felt like in life, I was supposed to like. Since I was not supposed to even be able to speak, so by the grace of God and my parents with hard work and stuff, I just really had a desire. Like I felt like I was supposed to be a part of something bigger, and I didn't exactly turn out the way my parents thought I would, but life doesn't usually turn out like that, and God gave me this passion to write, so that was pretty awesome.
Did that passion to write help you in terms of having a greater resolve with your speech too? Did it give you some confidence?
It definitely gave me some confidence. And just I always had to like a rebellious nature, I guess. My mom would say, she says this, I do that. So I don't know if it definitely, it was just, I don't know if it really, I'm sure it did, but it was just an extra, like, I'm going to push forward and rebel against my hardships.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And you've got, in the meantime now, 3 books that you've had published. You also have a lot of your poetry on YouTube.
Yes.
And I love it because, sometimes you sit there and as a person that's not, as passionate about poetry as someone like you, it gave me a lot by watching it, the scenes, because they're videos basically, but instead of a song, it's a spoken word. And there's still, some music behind a few of them and so forth. It's very great. It's creative. But man, does it pack a punch. You talked about your hardships, and we get by watching those videos, and I encourage everybody. We're going to let Zach give you all the info on where to find him on YouTube and so forth, and also where to buy the books. It hits a lot of people in a lot of big social ways too, doesn't it?
Yeah, just the support I've had. I have to give a shout out to Alex Hartman, who has a photography company called Lost Souls Creative. He has done, going back to my metal band Rebuild the Fallen, to everything with my poetry. He's made all my helped with most of my book covers, and just the vision he had to really impact people through what I'm doing, and that's just, and I've had people come to me and say that some of my stuff made them cry, and it's really it means so much to me.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put one out there that I just. I guess I don't want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it has certainly hit home to me. It was one called Progress. Can you tell us a little bit about that as to what gave you the impetus to write that one?
So with Progress, it like...
I would have you read it, but it does include an F-bomb a couple of times.
It does,
so
yeah.
we keep it on the. We don't want to be on the explicit list on the podcast.
Yeah. So Progress is like when life brings you down, and when like life gives you that punch. And you just feel like you can't handle it, but you take one step forward, and even if you just come out of it alive, and just just like what you've, even through the hardship, just if you show like one step at a time,
yeah.
And that's how I feel like I've done life.
All right, so let's let the people know before we move on how they can find you on YouTube, and also where they can get some of your published material.
Awesome. So Broken Worship, if you just type it in, you're going to probably find a Christian, you probably find a Christian song or something. So it is a little bit harder to find. If you type in Broken Worship dash like Progress, it would be easier. But what I suggest is a lot of these videos are on my official website, brokenworship.bigcartel.com, and if you go to About, it has the videos links on there, so that's an easier way to find them. Or you could like my Facebook page, Broken Worship on Facebook, or follow me on Instagram, Rebuild the Zach. That has the link to the website in my bio.
Excellent. And from that, be able to get everything on YouTube as well, correct?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. What's your favorite as to what you've written?
I am really excited about my third book, Imperfectly Spreading a Perfect Gospel. It's completely different. The third one actually isn't poetry. It's a chapter book that talks about faith and about church and what it means to actually love your neighbor. And I believe the foundation of my faith is love God with all that you are and love your neighbor as yourself. I have some issues with church in general. It can be so like I'm not a religious person. I love Jesus and I want to obey him and love people. I can be a kind of an explicit guy if you see in my poetry. But I just want to be real with God and real with people. And this third book, I've always wanted to write a book about my faith, and I love poetry, but every step of my writing process I'm growing, and I would love someday to be able to like make a living off of writing. Right now I'm cleaning toilets at the Washington Pavilion, and it's a good job, and I'm thankful for it, but it's hard. I get so
writing's your passion.
Yeah, there's a saying: if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
And I just don't know what that's like right now.
Few of us do. I have the feeling that if we got a poll out there that hit everybody, that there would be very few that actually could say that. But yeah, when you get to that point and are doing it, it is wonderful. I've been there on a couple of occasions where it didn't feel like work, but sidelines is what we do to get our passion out there, and it seems that is growing more and more. Electronic media has obviously helped, with you being able to put things on YouTube. Our Instagram pages, Facebook pages, and things along that line certainly help. Plus, it keeps the marketing cost down when you're trying to have a little extra income out of something, too. Do you remember the first poem you wrote?
With my first work, Broken Worship, a lot of stuff. It was like of older stuff and newer stuff I wrote, and then like my mom sent me a text about 6 months ago, an old one that I wrote stuff in high school, like study halls. I can't really remember the first one. I think one of my I really can't, but I don't know.
Okay. In the meantime, what do you see ahead of you? Obviously, you'd like to be doing that, do what you love, not work. But what do you see ahead of you? More publishing, more videos? What can we expect out of Zach Mitchell in the future?
I kind of have like two kind of thoughts in my head. I just wrote a new poem about this political climate, how it seems like who you vote for is like who your faith is in, and that frustrates me.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something with all this political stuff that something, and I also wanted. I'm also thinking of writing another book, like my third one, about kind of inspired by doubting Thomas.
Oh,
So,
I like that one. I would look forward to that. What is it about poetry that I'll be honest, the majority of us really don't get?
It's kind of an acquired taste. I have my pastor and is like, I there's something about I usually can't do poems, but there's something about this, and I think it's kind of reading the flow and trying to like. It's hard to kind of maybe see it on paper, and I have a friend that it's even hard for him to like want to sit down and read, and then poems. I really like the flow of it, and just how it's kind of like a song aspect just a little bit. So I just kind of. I definitely know it's kind of an acquired taste.
Okay, because I guess from the average layperson's viewpoint, to me, when I sit down to read a poem, if it's not rhyming, I have a tough time in determining how I should be reading it. I want to, I like what's been written, but how do I say it? We all know how to do. Something that rhymes, probably even we've all written something that rhymes, or we know limericks, things like that. But when it's not in a rhyming pattern, what's the best way? How should we be reading your input into life via your poems? Because going back to the beginning, that's what I really love about your YouTube stuff.
Yeah, how to read it. You're probably gonna want to don't just like do a quick read through. You really kind of you're gonna probably need to read it a few times to really read it. And just. I understand if it's not for you. But if you can take the time, and I hope you'll like it.
So, what I've read and seen, I certainly do.
Thank you.
Appreciate you stopping by. A couple of questions we always like to end with. So when you're not, performing in a metal band or writing poetry or writing a chapter book and so forth, what do you like to do for entertainment?
I'm a big movie buff. I always say I can't write too much at home because I get locked on the TV. I love anything. Whether it be horror, comedy, action, and TV shows like Stranger Things, stuff like that.
Love Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that to come back.
Yeah.
Any other hobbies and so forth?
Not too much. I'm a pretty social person. I like to hang out with friends, and and I try to go to the gym every once in a while, stuff like that.
I try to go to the gym like once a decade. All right. Zach Mitchell, certainly appreciate you spending some time with us today to be on the Dave Holly Hour.
I really appreciate this, and thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And we'll be back to wrap up the show in just a moment. Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment. 605-334-1463.
From the Dipsy Doodle Studios at the world headquarters of Big D Entertainment, a 40-square-foot home studio in the middle of America, it's Dave Holly.
Hey, thanks again, everybody. Certainly appreciate you listening. Thanks again to my guest, Mark Dahm from Crazy Poet Records, as well as having the Warehouse Recording Studio, and to Zach Mitchell talking about his poetry. Great stuff. I hope you get the chance to take up his YouTube channel and find out what all is available there. Also, thanks to our friends at Woodgrain Frontier Bank and Aquafresh for allowing us to record so many of our conversations. Speaking of conversations, next week, here's who's scheduled. Augie Professor of Jazz and Jazz Saxophonist Extraordinaire. That would be Brian Hannigan. He has a new album coming out. Also on the docket for next week, the producers of the Midtown Coffee Radio Hour, which is another podcast I happen to be involved with, Nick and Tina Jackson, will stop by and tell us all about that great program. Thank you, by the way, for all the work you do on social media for me. I really appreciate it when you're sharing, telling other people about it, and so forth. Make sure you also check out 2 different websites. I've got DaveHolly.com, which talks about all the different things I do for entertainment, including tomorrow night, Friday night, I will be the once again master of ceremonies, your host for trivia. Yeah, the ruggedly handsome trivia host returns to the Sky Lounge and Tea Friday night, 7 o'clock. It's general knowledge trivia. So get on your general hats, all right? And then also check out DaveHollyHour.com, all about this show, including a section called News and Notes. That's going to get updated here in another day or two. And what that involves, some stuff we can't always get on the program in a timely manner because there's just so many people we still need to have conversations with here. So we'll have them again next week. Meanwhile, stay safe, everybody. My name is Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by the Sky Lounge and Tea, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, and Books and Brews Pizzeria. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, go to DaveHollyHour.com. At the bottom of the front page is the additional links section. Click on the orange button, Dave Holly on Linktree. You can order merchandise, become a Dave Holly Hour VIP, and make contributions to the show. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.